I recently got my hands on the Caroma C1 electric scooter and took it for a spin around town. Right away, I was drawn to its promising specs. It boasts a 500 watt motor, 800 watt peak, and is advertised to reach speeds up to 25 miles per hour with about a 30-mile range per charge. As someone who has tried a few e-scooters before, I was eager to see how the C1 stacks up in real-world performance. Here's my first-person account of its speed, battery life, ride quality, and features after testing it out, along with some insights from what others have experienced. Speed was one of the first things I tested. On a flat stretch of road, I was able to hit around 25 miles per hour, which lives up to the scooter's claims. It provides an adequate amount of power for commuting thanks to that 500 watt brushless hub motor. In the highest gear, it has 3 speed modes to choose from. The C1 really zips. When I floored the thumb throttle, I could feel it surge forward with a satisfying kick at the lower RPM. It's not a torquey electric motorcycle by any means, but for an e-scooter, it has plenty of get up and go to get you from point A to B. I didn't experience any jerky starts or lurching. The throttle response felt smooth and predictable. Once moving, it really picks up speed quickly for its class. I found myself at 15 plus miles per hour in just a few seconds, and then it steadily climbed toward 25 miles per hour in high mode. Overall, the acceleration and top end on the Caroma C1 left me impressed. It's quick enough to be fun and keep up with city traffic when needed without feeling overwhelming. The C1 comes with a 48-volt 10.4 amp-hour lithium-ion battery tucked in the deck, which on paper gives up to about 30 miles of range per charge. I suspected real-world range would be lower, and my tests confirmed that. In practice, the range I got depended a lot on how and where I rode. Pushing it to top speed frequently and tackling some hills, I managed roughly 15 miles on a full charge before the battery indicator got low. I am 185 pounds and the temperature is roughly 50 degrees weather with slight variable inclines in the highest speed modes. This is solid for an e-scooter with 10.4 amp hours of battery, while not class leading, but definitely good enough considering it's under $500. Charging the battery is also pretty convenient. Caroma claims about a 4 to 6 hour charge time from empty, and in my experience, it was fully charged over the day without issue. In my case, it took roughly 5 hours from 10% to 100%. That's on par with the 5-hour charge spec for the 10.4 amp hour battery. The charger is a simple brick that came in the box, and it didn't get too hot or noisy while charging. As for battery longevity, I haven't had the C1 long enough to assess long-term degradation. However, the battery is a decent size and is UL certified for safety, which gives me some peace of mind. I also noticed the scooter's battery management system tries to prevent damage. For example, power output seems to soften when the battery gets very low to avoid overdraining it. So far, the range has been ample for my needs, and I haven't run it completely dry on any trip. One of the first things I noticed when riding the C1 was how stable it felt. The scooter has 10-inch pneumatic tubeless tires, which are fairly large for an urban e-scooter. Those air-filled tires make a big difference in soaking up small bumps and cracks in the road. They act as a natural suspension of sorts. The C1's frame is rigid, so the tires are really what cushion your ride. On smooth asphalt or concrete, I found the ride quite comfortable and smooth. I could carve gentle turns and zigzag around obstacles with confidence. The wide tires and sturdy deck give a good sense of balance. The handlebar width feels just right to me, providing enough leverage to steer without feeling twitchy. At around 46 pounds, the scooter has a bit of heft, which likely also contributes to its planted feel on the road. It doesn't get easily unsettled by small bumps. When I took the C1 over rougher terrain, the limitations of having no dedicated suspension did become apparent. Going over a pitted sidewalk and some brick pathways introduced a lot of vibration. You feel every jolt directly in the handlebars and through the deck. On a particularly bumpy street with cracks and patches, the ride got shaky enough that I had to slow down and brace myself. It's definitely not a plush ride like some scooters that have spring or hydraulic suspensions. You learn to absorb shocks with your knees and arms. That said, the scooter can handle a bit of off-road or uneven ground. I rode through a grassy park and some gravel paths, and while it was bumpier, the C1 managed it without throwing me off. The 10-inch tires have a good tread and didn't slip on grass or loose gravel, which was reassuring. Still, for long stretches of rough road, you'll be wishing for at least a front fork suspension. I'd classify the ride comfort as decent for an air tire scooter, great on smooth surfaces, tolerable but rough on bad roads. I live in an area with a mix of flat streets and some fairly steep hills, so testing the C1's uphill performance was important to me. Caroma advertises that the 500-watt motor can conquer slopes up to a 30% grade. That's an extremely steep hill. I didn't have a 30% grade handy to test, but I did find a hill that's about a 20% incline over a couple hundred yards. The C1 impressively made it up this hill without needing my foot to assist. As expected, it slowed down on the steepest part. My speed dropped to around approximately 10 miles per hour on the very steep section, but the scooter kept chugging along. I leaned forward a bit to keep the front wheel planted, and the motor just pushed steadily. It's worth noting I'm about 185 pounds, so I'm not light, and the C1 still handled it. Out of the box, the Caroma C1 gives a strong impression of solid build quality. The chassis is made of metal, and you can tell there's very minimal flex when I step on the deck, and the whole scooter feels substantial. At about 46 pounds weight, it's not a flimsy toy by any stretch. All the parts fit together nicely with no rattling or loose ends. I was actually surprised at how beefy the stem and frame construction is for a scooter in this price range. It feels closer to a heavier duty performance scooter. The manufacturer rates it for up to a 300-pound load, and I believe it. The deck is wide and has a grippy rubberized surface with the Caroma logo. I can comfortably fit both feet side by side or one behind the other. The overall design strikes a nice balance between sporty and practical. It has a bit of a futuristic look, yet nothing feels gimmicky. All the cables are routed cleanly, mostly internally or neatly along the frame, which gives it a sleek appearance. In terms of folding design and portability, the C1 uses a typical quick fold lever at the base of the stem. You release a safety latch and pull a lever, and the stem hinges down to lock onto the rear fender. It's a pretty easy mechanism. I can fold or unfold the scooter in about 2 seconds, which is great when hopping on a train or putting it in a car trunk. When folded, there's a hook on the stem that catches onto a latch on the rear deck off fender to keep it folded. I will note this latch hooks but doesn't hard lock in place. It's fine for lifting and carrying the scooter, but if you were to jiggle it or hold it at a weird angle, the hook could come loose. 46 pounds is not something you want to hand carry for long distances. But for short lifts, like up a few stairs or loading into a car, it's manageable. The materials and finish on the C1 are impressive. The paint coating has a nice matte look, mine is black, and it seems scratch resistant so far. All the critical parts like the folding hinge, clamps, and kickstand are made of metal and feel robust. The handlebars are covered in textured rubber grips that are comfortable and haven't shown any signs of loosening. One downside is that the handlebars are a fixed height. For me, at 5 feet 9 inches, the height is just about perfect, but a much shorter rider might find them a tad high since you can't adjust them. The upside of a thick, non-telescoping stem is that it's very sturdy. There's zero wobble in the handlebar post while riding. I even mounted a phone holder on the handlebars and it stayed stable over bumps. Speaking of which, the stem is a bit thicker in diameter than some scooters, which means certain clamp-on accessories might need an adapter or won't fit perfectly if they're designed for bicycle-sized tubing. As for controls, the layout is typical and functional. There's a thumb throttle on the right side that also has an integrated safety cutoff. The throttle has a smooth action and springs back promptly when I let go. On the left side of the handlebar, you have the brake lever, which controls the dual braking system. Near the left grip, there's also a small button pad. This includes the horn and the turn signal switch. The horn on my scooter is an electronic beeper that's decently loud. It's not a honking car horn, but it will alert pedestrians ahead of you. The turn signals are activated by a rocker switch on the left side. Flick it left or right, and the corresponding turn signal blinks. I love this feature. Using it quickly became second nature when I was making a turn or changing lanes in a bike lane. The signals also make a ticking sound when on, so I remember to turn them off. Having confidence in your brakes is absolutely crucial when zipping around at 20+ miles per hour, and the Caroma C1 delivers here with a dual braking system. It features a rear mechanical disc brake coupled with an electronic ABS brake on the motor, so when you squeeze the brake lever, you're engaging both systems for a quicker stop. In practice, I found the braking performance to be very good. A single brake lever on the left handle controls both brakes simultaneously, and squeezing it firmly from top speed brought me to a halt in a short distance without drama. The scooter decelerates in a smooth, controlled way. You can feel the motor braking kicking in almost immediately, and the mechanical brake adds extra stopping power. For an e-scooter of this weight, I'd say the braking performance is excellent and on par with scooters that have dual disc brakes. Plus, the Regan not only helps stop you, it also recoups a bit of energy back into the battery. A tiny bit, but hey, every little counts. In conclusion, I can confidently say that the Caroma C1 has been a great electric scooter experience for me so far. It strikes a good balance between performance, portability, and price. My initial rides have been a blast, and I feel safe and in control on this scooter thanks to its strong brakes and lighting system. If you're looking for a commuter e-scooter that can hit about 25 miles per hour, has a decent real-world range, and comes packed with features like app control, turn signals, etc., the C1 is definitely worth considering. I'll continue to use it for my daily commute and weekend fun rides, and if it remains as sturdy and enjoyable as it is now, I think I'll be a happy rider for a long time.